Hi, I'm Ed Highland, and welcome to Profiles. Today we're talking about sports, not so much the competition, but the business of sports and maybe how it can be used to improve your life. Joining us is Bill Sutton from the University of Central Florida's Department of Sport Business Management, I should say. Welcome, Bill. Thank you so much for
Hey, Ed, thanks for having me.
I think most people recognize how sports can help build a team concept, but your team at the DeVos Business Management Program really is taking this a step farther. Why don't you give us an idea of how that works?
What we're trying to do at DeVos is there's been many sport business programs before. There's probably a couple hundred sport business programs in the country. And what we're trying to do here at DeVos is to take Rich Lapchick's background and Fritz Polite, which is in business, in ethics and diversity training and moral judgment, and try and combine that with business to try and create business leaders in the sport industry with a conscience that are going to make the right decisions for the right reasons. And that's kind of what we're looking at. So we have a community service requirement in our program that's very unique. No one else has that in the country. And so we're combining that with the business core, and it's worked out really well for us.
It seems to be especially timely. Unfortunately, everybody picks up the sports page, sees something that is not very pleasant in the world of sports, whether it be a physical altercation or someone complaining about their high salary. And it is a business, but it is also something that is very visible, and a lot of kids take part in it as well. Expand a little bit more. What are the specifics in the program?
Well, we teach, I personally teach sport marketing, and I teach a course in professional selling. And what we try and do, or what I try and do, my personal style is to take my industry background, which, as we talked before, includes 5 years as Vice President of Marketing for the NBA, and includes 20 years of consulting as well as 20 years of teaching. And I'm trying to combine the experiences I have to create a student that can not only be a great leader and a great decision maker, but is pretty marketable coming out of the program. So we try and create a learning laboratory capitalizing on the resources we have in Orlando. So for instance, this semester I'm teaching my professional selling course, and we are going to work with the Orlando Magic. And my students are going to sell 1,000 tickets for the game on April 8th. So we had a long discussion today about a couple different ways we could sell those tickets. Mm-hmm. Last year we created a sports career fair where college students came in and were able to interview with different professional and sport organizations throughout the Florida area. And high school students could come in and find out about different college programs where they could major in sport management. And so that's a possibility, but we might also go the route of the post-game concert. So that's TBD yet, but today was the first day of that class. We'll see how that goes. And I also started an advanced sport marketing class. And yesterday we met down at Disney with Kellen Winslow and Reggie Williams. And what we're going to do is work with them on doing an audit of all their sporting events and try and figure out how to categorize those for the purposes of soliciting sponsorships and making sure that they have a well-varied program of activities. So we're actually taking what we're learning in the classroom and applying it as part of our evaluation of the student, if you will.
Now why is that important these days?
I think it's important because I think the students need to, first of all, decide, once they get a taste of it, when they're actually doing it, is this really what I want to do? And I mean, they need to understand in the sales class to pick up that telephone or go out on a sales call and hear no, probably roughly 80% of the time. Do they have the constitution where that's going to be something that they're going to be successful at? And more importantly, is it something they're going to enjoy? Do they enjoy the challenge of trying to convert those 8 out of 10 people that say no? And it's very interesting. On the other hand, where we're watching events and creating events, and they realize that one of the things in our business is that we work when other people play. So our schedule is we're working when you're playing. So when you come out to the game at 8 o'clock at night, we're at work. Mm-hmm. That's your relaxation time, but that's our business time. So they need to understand that and figure how it's all going to affect their lives, and then figure out exactly what they want to do. And I always tell them that my advice is don't try and figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. Figure out what you want to do first. And I'm a great example of that because I've done everything from being a federal correctional officer to vice president of the NBA, and I think there's a wide range in there.
We call that experience, right?
We call that experience. We call that experimentation. We call that sampling. We call it whatever we want to call it.
Now, and I don't want this to come out wrong, but when we have a business, whatever the business may be, mm-hmm. and it is competing against another business, let's say 2 basketball franchises, the word ethics doesn't often come up in those conversations when we're talking about business. So how do you integrate that into it so that you can be a competitive business model and still maintain a high level of ethics?
Okay, well, if we're talking about, let's take a city like Miami where we have the Heat and we have the Panthers, we have the Dolphins, and we've got the Marlins. So we've got 4 different entities going on. Let's say you're working for the Heat. Well, your job is to portray the Heat in the best favorable light by explaining what the opportunities are for entertainment, for enjoyment, for fulfillment. And you do that by emphasizing your positives. You don't do that by saying, well, you don't want to go to the Panther game, they're going to go on strike anyhow, or you don't want to go see the Marlins, they play in a football stadium. I mean, that's kind of the ethical twist there, that you realize that you look at what you're doing and why you're doing it and put the emphasis on that. And I also teach students that if you do things right in the marketplace, you can set the standard for how everybody else in the marketplace behaves, and you can bring them up to your level. So if you do the best, absolute best job of customer service, and let's say you get in a Hummer and you drive out, and every time you see a basketball hoop, you stop and give a kid a net and a schedule from the Miami Heat, that's a very positive way to reach somebody, and it's a very meaningful way. And you don't have to say anything about any other competition. It's how you conduct yourself in your business and how the message you send about how first class you are that connotates how everything's going to be interpreted.
So it's building up your image as opposed to trying to tear down or degrade somebody else's image. Speaking of image, how do you perceive Orlando right now, Central Florida, as a sports community?
Very interestingly, it's a complex question. It's kind of a wannabe. And it's kind of, I'm not sure what I want to be when I grow up. It's just kind of like, we're just there. I think the Magic is one of the better sport organizations in any league in the country. They have a great front office. They have an ownership that's committed, and they do a great job of providing good value for your dollar. That said, there's a lot of shortcomings there. In that building, you really can't do corporate entertainment. You can't really have a sweet life. There's a lot of things you can't do in a building, so they're as good as they are. The quality of game entertainment in Orlando is not as high as other NBA markets because of the limitations with the speaker system and the lighting and everything else in the building. So they do what they can do in the circumstance. I'm very impressed with Cracker Jack Stadium down at Disney. I think that's a first-class venue. I think it's probably the best venue in the market. I went to the Citrus Bowl, to see the Capital One Bowl on New Year's Day. The LSU-Iowa game is I would probably have to say it's the best football game I've ever seen live in my life. They do a phenomenal job down there, but again, it's an archaic facility. It's tough to get to, and there's certain limitations. So as far as Orlando, I mean, I think it's put up or shut up. I think we need some new venues. UCS talking about a football stadium on campus, which I think would be a great idea. I think it would impact the university community. It'd be great for students and their families. It'd be great to bring alumni back to campus for events and tied in the football game. So we have a lot of ways to go. We have to figure out where we want to go and how we're going to get there. And given that we have finite resources, we have to figure out what our priorities are and what they're not, and make sound, responsible decisions to get where we need to go.
So from a business management standpoint, we're not really marketing ourselves as well as potentially we could.
No, absolutely not. Tip of this is really the proverbial tip of the iceberg.
And you can flip that over and say, but we have so much room to grow, and we can do almost anything we put our mind to it.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the market. I mean, I laugh and I say I moved to Orlando, and it's great because I live somewhere where everybody else comes down and helps me pay for my lifestyle. And I love the tourists and everything. And sometimes we get too caught up in thinking we're a tourist town and not a residential community, and we're both. And we need to figure out what we can do that's going to profit both of those types of people, the visitors and the permanent residents, and at the same time improve our community and improve our lifestyle and improve the visitors' experience when they're here. And I think that can be done. We just haven't done it.
Rich DeVos, for whom the business management program is named, really got into the sports business kind of late in life, if you will, after being a successful, I guess he was almost a billionaire. And that was a little unusual, him getting into the sports world, but at the same time, he brought in kind of a different ethic than had been brought into the whole program, didn't he?
Well, one of the reasons he got involved is because he felt a commitment that he saw a team that was in danger of leaving and other things, and he felt he could come in and take his acumen and make it better, and he's done that, and he's been a phenomenal person. In fact, we just had him out as a speaker. The Suns have a speaker series, and he was just in Phoenix last week addressing people and teaching them about his business acumen and his thinking and the ways he does things. Everything he does, the Magic have a philosophy and a code and a purpose that reflect what Rich believes in. And he's a first-class individual, does a great job. We're very fortunate to have him as our endowment for the DeVos Sport Business Program at UCF. But this is somebody that's a leader, and the people that he has surrounded himself with are leaders. I mean, John Weisbrod's done a phenomenal job this year for the Magic. Rich has a certain standard, and he's looking for people that aren't afraid to say what they think and aren't afraid to follow a course of action and are responsible to make sure that when they follow that course of action, they deliver.
I think most sports fans, even non-sports fans, would recognize the Magic have a reputation that, frankly, not many teams in the league can lay claim to. What's your take right now from your past experience with the NBA on the NBA?
I'm ecstatic about the Magic in particular this year because Weisbrod brought this philosophy by trading McGrady that the name on the front of the shirt's more important than the name on the back. And to true sports fans, that's what it's all about. I mean, the Magic are all about teamwork and rebuilding an image, and they've done a really good job. As far as the NBA in general, it couldn't be healthier. This year the NBA will set an all-time record for attendance. It'll set an average game attendance record. It'll set a revenue record. Judging by the Christmas Day games, we have some possible media records to break. We're in a really good place, but it's come with a lot of hard work. Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting that all these records are going to be broken this year, and it's a year where the NBA did not have a marquee player enter the league. There was no LeBron coming in the league. There was no Michael Jordan coming in the league. We had one player change markets, and for the first time leaving LA for Miami, Shaq didn't decimate the market that he left. And he left the Lakers in good shape. The Lakers are still selling out, and he's really enhanced the attendance and the opportunities in Miami. So the NBA, I mean, we've learned how to sell, we've learned how to market, we've learned how to promote. We've done a really, really good job.
Do you think they need to do a better job with the players and perhaps enroll them in some of your classes for ethics?
I'm fortunate to work for David Stern in my other life, and one of the more, he probably knows more about marketing than I'll ever know. He's very intuitive, and David knows what's good for the game, and I would assume in this next round of collective bargaining agreement that he's going to be looking for some movement from the union to acknowledge that there are player issues and that player conduct and player image and player perception is key to the success of the NBA. And since we are a partnership with our players receiving 57% of gross revenue, the players need to understand that when you're part of that process, you have not only a responsibility to spend that money, but you have a responsibility to help produce that money. And that's part of David's message, and we all embrace that philosophy.
Let's get back to the students, because that's what we're all about. Let's
Sure.
talk a little bit about, give us an idea, a little profile, if you will. Who would you say would be your average student, coming in, and where do you anticipate, or where would you like to see that person or persons go?
I think our average student coming in is probably about 23 years of age this year. In our program, it could be male or female. We're about 50-50, and also it could be 50-50 in terms of ethnicity. Mm-hmm. It's a very diverse program, and again, that goes back to Mr. DeVos and Rich Slapchick.
I was going to say, is that different? I mean, is that the way it is across the country?
No. Most programs are about 80-20 in terms of diversity, and we're about 50-50. But that's a goal of this program, because this is also the center for the study of ethics and diversity in sport. So this is part of our mantra.
So there's a recruitment process involved as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you go out to the schools. Tell us how that works.
We not only go out to the schools, but between myself and Dr. Lapchick and Dr. Polite, we do a lot of public speaking and bring a lot of visibility. We write columns in different publications so that people know who we are and what we're trying to attract. We had an excellent story done in the program in the Sport Business Journal in October that should be a good recruitment piece for us, where we talked about who we are and why it's not just business and why it's not just ethics, how it's the combination of both. But anyhow, about 23 years old. We're trying to get a little bit older. I think we'd prefer to somewhere be around 25 with somebody with about a couple years of work experience. And as the program gets older, we'll probably we'll probably drift that way. We'll probably get a little bit older.
And work experience, say doing what?
Work experience, and it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
It really doesn't matter. Some people have been in sport, some people haven't been in sport. Some people have done some internships in sport. Some people have had a career in business and broadcasting or whatever. Where this field always attracts a lot of lawyers that are looking to change careers. We always have a couple of those. The class right now probably, the class that entered this past fall probably ranges from 23 to 48 years old. So it's a very diverse class in terms of that. And what we're trying to do is to help people find what they want to do. So I've got people that'll go out and they'll go out in sales and they'll sell for an NBA team or another professional sport entity. Other people will work in community relations. Other people will work in customer service. Other people will work in working with athletes on a college campus in terms of academic advising, or some people will work in athletic fundraising and athletic development. And between the Magic and UCF and Disney, we've got some phenomenal opportunities for the students to be involved in while they're going to school. And as well as, we also ground them in their community service activities, with whether it's for Read to Achieve or one of the civic organizations in town. We also let them see that there's an obligation by a sport team and a sport franchise to give back to the community and make that part of it. So we're always trying to keep the balance. But our students are, spend as much time probably off the campus as they do on.
Not exactly work study, more like volunteer study in a way?
Volunteer study, but also some work study. And some graduate assistantships. We're hoping that we're going to play a larger role in the athletic department and try and support some students there, but also help contribute to the work that the athletic department needs to conduct.
I guess the snap impression was that this would be something for a former athlete, someone who perhaps had been brought up in the business and for whatever reason was not staying in as an athlete, or perhaps had passed their career.
I would say probably half of the students in our program are former college athletes. And that's one of the criterion that we look at when we're looking, but it's not a requirement, and it's not a guarantee either.
Is there any problem with, for lack of a better term, bad habits? In other words, people who have been involved in sports coming into the program and perhaps were taught one way, or perhaps had very little discipline when it comes to the business and ethics of sports?
Actually, the people that we interview every student that we accept. So we'll probably get a couple hundred applications this year, and we'll probably interview in the neighborhood of 60 to 70 people to accept our 30 people. So we have a pretty good ear to the ground for the people that we're looking for. We get great recommendations from people out there, and the athletes that we have coming in are coming in with the idea of teamwork and helping each other and the discipline and good time management skills. So we're pretty fortunate. Not to say we don't make mistakes, because we do.
UCF has a growing and active sports program. Are you closely united with that program? I mean, does its growth and success reflect and become a part of you, or are you that separate?
Yeah, I think Steve Orsini's a fantastic athletic director. We've been working with him in class projects. Like each time I teach my sport marketing class, we take 2 to 3 athletic events, and the students have to take everything they learned in the marketing class, which is marketing, advertising, promotion, sales, PR, CR, and take one of those events and make an impact on it. So last year the class did baseball and softball when the class was in the spring. This year the class did football, women's volleyball, and women's basketball. So they were responsible for trying to increase attendance, but also trying to create a buzz in the community about, hey, these things are going on at UCF. Now this year they had a tough time because they got the football game. They get the 11th football game of an 0-11 season, and they got the Tuesday night before Thanksgiving, with Wednesday normally being a holiday, but after all the hurricanes it wasn't a holiday, and on top of that it was a promotion geared to youth. And since originally it would have been a youth night, would have been a great promotion, this year the kids had to go to school the next day. So they've learned the highs and lows and good and bad of how to try and do those kinds of things.
But that becomes an integral part, I would think, of okay, yeah, there's going to be some successes and some failures, and how do you learn from that?
Sure, and then we go back and look at it and say, why did it work and why didn't it work?
And what did you tell them after that? I mean, after they'd planned, and obviously this wasn't something you just don't decide on Friday that you're going to do this on Tuesday.
I told this particular group that the gods were against them on this, and that every conceivable or inconceivable obstacle that could have came up. The stars did not align for that particular project, but they still had to put it on. They still worked hard. They had a couple They had probably still had a couple hundred kids come out, and they worked with them and had a football clinic for them before the game, and all the things that they had to do, they still had to do. And I tell them that, you know, what they need to understand is that whether you're 0-11 or 11-0, that the show goes on, and the obligations and the planning and the process. You plan every season, it's going to be a great season, but the cyclical nature of sports doesn't let you have that.
Is the marketing plan and class, for that matter, the same for, say, a college, university level type of team, as opposed to, say, a minor league baseball team or a basketball team? Are the concepts or the principles?
The concepts are the same. Okay. What's different is probably the level of entertainment involved, the resources that you have. In minor league sports, you're probably working with a shoestring budget and trying to work things together. Whereas if you're working with the Miami Heat, you've got a budget for game entertainment, different things that you can do. So yeah, it's the same concepts. You still have the same elements that you got to deliver on, but the resources at your hand you don't have. And so what I try and encourage the students to understand is if you know, sometimes an opportunity to take an internship in minor league baseball is really going to, if you don't know exactly what you want to do, if you go to a situation where you're going to have to do 5 or 6 different things, it might be a healthy thing for you, and it also is a healthy thing for you to learn how to do without. Mm-hmm. Learn how to work with the resources that you have rather than take things for granted. And that way, if you're in a situation where those resources are more plentiful, then you'll be more appreciative of what you have and be able to capitalize on it even more.
Now tell the truth. Are you finding that these students are coming up with ideas and concepts, I'll say especially the younger students, that perhaps were not things that you had thought of in your career?
Absolutely. We just did a project in my marketing class. Instead of doing a paper, I have a good relationship with the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's one of the teams I work with. And so I talked to them, and they said, well, let's identify 14 sponsor categories, and you divide your class up and have them research the 14 categories for us, and then decide who the best producer is in those categories, who the strongest brand is, and then we decided to let them produce a proposal for the Timberwolves to take out to that company. And so the agreement was that I would do those things if the Timberwolves would be open and amenable to providing all the information, and then the Timberwolves would actually fly down and spend a day with us, and that the students would make a presentation, and the presentation would be graded equally between the Timberwolves and myself. And that's what we did on December 9th. And some of the ideas that they came up with and some of the ways they were looking at things. I mean, this is an internet generation now. So when it came to a grocery store, instead of picking a grocery store, the student team picked an internet grocer. And so the ideas and everything that they were putting out there, they were very comfortable with because it's the world in which they live. Mm-hmm. Whereas for the Timberwolves and I, it was as much of an educational process as it was a sponsorship process.
The teachers learning something from the students along the way.
The teachers and the Timberwolves, we all learned from it. It was a great experience.
And the kids actually, I mean, these are the actual management folks from the Timberwolves.
Yes, it was the senior vice president of sponsorship and the director of corporate partnerships, yes.
There's not too many programs, as I recall, where you get that kind of face-to-face,
no,
hands-on.
And last year we did a similar project with the Magic, but it was developing alliances between their current partners. So teaching their current partners as to how they could maximize what they had already bought by working with each other. So, and I'm going to do that again. Already next year I've got the Devil Rays, the Cleveland Indians, and the Timberwolves want to come back. So we've got a lot of people interested in this, and it's a great way to showcase your talent of your students, to put them in a situation where, hey, if a job comes up, they've seen this student, they know the quality of their work, something good can happen from it.
That's something. You see Joe or Jane Fan out there actually participating in something, you know, the internet grocery sponsorship or promotion, that type of thing? I mean, is that's something that's close to fruition?
I'll tell you, it was some of the ideas that they have. The Timberwolves assured me they're investigating and they're going to pursue some of the options, some of the leads that the students gave them.
All right, just in the last couple of minutes we've got here, maybe you can give us an idea. Just where would you like to see this program go? I mean, you've got what you've got right now. Where would you like to see it go?
Well, I came here, you know, I was at UMass, which is one of probably the 3 most elite programs in the country. It's a 30-year program. So a lot of history with the program at UMass. What I want to do here with Dr. Lapchick and Dr. Polite is I want to build a program that is going to be the rival of any program. And the opportunity that we have here in Orlando with Disney, with the Magic, with UCF, with Electronic Arts, with the Citrus Sports, with all these entities we have, I mean, I can do it here better than I can do it at UMass. And so I want to be part of that, and I also want to produce those leaders that are going to make the tough decision, but make the right decision. And I'm excited about doing that. I'm excited about recruiting nationally for our program, and hopefully internationally, because I think that you know, a successful program is going to bring in a lot of different people from a lot of different places with a lot of different points of view, and they're going to share those points of view. And while it's the professor's job to make the students better, I think it's also the students' job to help each other and enhance their own learning experience.
Before I let you get away, you mentioned electronic arts, and that one's kind of stuck out in my mind. How is that fitting into the overall scheme? Obviously, they've got the games with the
It's on my drawing board right now. We haven't done anything with them yet per se, but now that they're coming here in a larger presence, I think, you know, I don't know if it's in the game development area, but surely it's in the marketing and the promotion and the advertising end where we can work with them, hopefully, and, you know, at the very, very least, have them involved in our curriculum as speakers and probably adjunct faculty.
Golden Knights Xbox. Could happen.
Could be. We could see it. We could see it shortly.
Thanks so much for coming by and joining us
Ed, I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Really appreciate it. Bill Sutton, DeVos Sports Business Management Program. Thanks so much for joining us today on Profiles. I'm Ed Highland. Till next time.